There he is. Nope, supposed to have this handheld in your hand. I'm going to wear a mic. Oh! I think we have to turn the mic on.
Okay. Is
that working
now? Okay. Yeah, that works. Okay.
What was that question you just asked me?
Are you going to be better than that Yossi character?
Yeah, I don't know. Doubtful. Van, thanks so much for being here. So the goal of this fireside chat without the fire is to talk a little bit about, well, what's going on at Viacom, at MTV, at VH1, at all the kind of things you do. So what's going on?
Well, that's a pretty big question. We mostly speak to millennials, and I know you've had some panels this morning about millennials.
Yeah, we have.
And they're watching whatever they want, however they want, whenever they want. And that's always a challenge for us who particularly manage a linear TV business. How do we give them all the good stuff and keep them engaged on all the screens? And I know people are fearful. They still watch tons of TV, and I think it's really a great time to be a content maker. We just have to figure out a way to measure it and make money from it.
David Polchak had a funny line last night. He got up at dinner, and as he introduced himself, he says, I know TV's supposed to be dead. I've been working in it. This is my 44th year. TV is obviously not dead or close to it, but it's changed a lot. We all know that, and everybody here has some personal experience about that. MTV started out as the cultural center of 20-year-olds and below. It was the thing, I'm not going to date myself, but at a certain point in my life, I didn't do anything without checking what was going on in MTV. You guys have sort of had a roller coaster ride through that, and now you're sort of back in a place where, using all different media, you're kind of there again. Not to blow any smoke, but that's kind of amazing considering how fast the world changes. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? How you guys have got that together?
Well, I appreciate that. I think there was a compliment in there.
It
but
was.
I think the road is littered with many of my mistakes and my predecessors' mistakes. But the great thing about speaking to young people is we never got sort of too fat, rich, and happy at any time, too lazy. We always had to reinvent. And when social networks came along, we were really scared, and YouTube, and we kind of flipped out. Should we try to build one? What do we do? And I think really the moment that Kanye West walked on stage with Taylor Swift, we realized we're sort of the conversation, and let's use social networking as a megaphone. So as opposed to building and trying to beat them, let's partner with them. And if you had asked me, 10, 15 years ago at the height of the Osbournes, would we ever find a series with DVRs coming in that would exceed the Osbournes rating? I probably would have said no. And then, we had this moment that accidentally leaked with Snooki getting punched in a bar. And all of a sudden, we had our highest ratings ever. So
Snooki is not the person I would have picked as the cultural change, that the change agent.
She's a touchstone, Shelley.
Yes,
she's a
so
touchstone.
Call it wrong if you're me. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. So.
Anyway, I think if you can really tap into the virality of some of these moments, still create them and understand that they can kind of resonate even louder when using all the new technologies, that TV is still vibrant. You still need to make great content. You still need to tell great stories.
So, it's funny. We talk about Snooki for a second, not to make her the butt of more jokes than she's already the butt of. She kind of came and went at the speed. She shot up like a shining star, and then
She's on Dancing with the Stars. But that's nothing new for us.
Does that make her culturally iconic to 13 to 18-year-olds?
The show is. I think the show, just because it came at a time for us, we transitioned from this kind of hyper pseudo-scripted reality of the hills and Laguna Beach
right.
into what our audience said, really authentic reality. And that was a big shift for us, and almost bigger for MTV, not the rest of television, is it was probably a decade since we had put parents on MTV. But all this millennial research had shown the parents are their best friends. They don't rebel against their parents. They look to their parents to give them advice. And so we had the parents come in with vats of pasta in the house, and it showed how connected they were to each other and their families.
Where does this go? I mean, you probably have further sight out than most of us because we're so youth-oriented and so youth-inspired in our business. What are you seeing? What's happening now that we need to know about as people who care about technology, media, entertainment, and the future of content?
Well, as I said, I think social networking can be our friend. We like to view it as sort of the modern-day laugh track for television and the water cooler moment, and really embrace it. But I'd be lying to you to say there isn't a gravitational pull on the rest of a linear TV schedule. So there's absolutely no urgency to see the third repeat of a show at 3 p.m. And I think you've got to figure out a way to create urgency, use social networking, have sponsored programming, and understand that your audience is quite often on multiple devices at the same time. So engage them on several screens at once.
Now that requires being in the culture. I don't like the term native content, but that's really what has to happen, and you guys are doing a pretty nice job of that, where something is happening on Facebook that feels like Facebook, something on Twitter feels like Twitter, something on Pinterest feels like Twitter, and something on TV feels like TV. What have you learned about that? What have you learned about the way that content is distributed now that's new that you didn't know, or any surprises in that zone?
Right. It's not all created equal, the virality of the content. So as much as we'd like all that noise in social media to be really predictive of what's going to happen on television, sometimes it's way wrong. And sometimes it's right. And I think it's about engaging the audience in between seasons. So there's no real downtime. You can't wait a year between a scripted series and not engage that audience at some level, because they'll go away. They're really fickle. And so we create with Teen Wolf, this generation clearly thinks they can game everything, but we create games and that put the cast out there all year long. So when Teen Wolf comes back as a television franchise, they know about it, they're engaged. So you can never sort of lose sight. I grew up at a time when Led Zeppelin, Guns N' Roses waited 5-6 years in between albums. You need to put out a couple of albums a year if you're a musician, or you risk relevancy.
So I'm a young content creator. I've invented the new thing. I want to be the next MTV. Move over, MTV. I've got the greatest idea ever. Do I bring it to Viacom?
Well, we like to keep a lot of the money that's made on these projects. So I don't know about that, but so does YouTube. I think it's sort of not the way right now. I think it gestates because there's no barrier to entry. You can shoot and edit a film on your Mac. You can create music at home. And so why not put it up and get the response from your friends? Everyone wants to comment on it. They like it. They hate it. And it lives that way at first. But I think if you want it to sort of blow up and reach a larger audience, you definitely bring it to Viacom.
What do you want people to think right now about where MTV is? What's its position in culturally, socially, relevancy? What would you like advertisers, what would you like marketers to think about MTV?
Well, I think you paid us a compliment in the beginning. To be several decades into our lifespan and be the #1 channel for young people and keep reinventing. I was at that rehearsal with Miley Cyrus and Robin Thicke, and I didn't anticipate the reaction. I've seen a bunch of that stuff, and I thought Justin Timberlake did a great performance, but it still resonates. It still speaks to young people in a vastly different way. I have to apologize almost every day. You don't play music videos as much. You don't look like the MTV you were in the 1980s.
Thank God.
You wouldn't be talking to me if we were. We wouldn't be relevant.
No, it's true. Van Toffler, I got to tell you, it was a compliment. I can say from the bottom of my heart, from the MTV generation to the present, you guys have been, you've displayed star quality in that stars have staying power. So thank you so much for being here today. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you. That was a tight. Appreciate it.